Hello, dear explorers of the mind and cosmos. Welcome back to Conscious Frequency, where we drift through the wonders of science and philosophy, gently guided by curiosity and the quiet hum of understanding. Tonight, we embark on a profound journey into the very essence of our sleeping selves. Imagine a world where the vibrant tapestry of dreams is absent, where sleep visits, but the ethereal realm of imagination remains silent. What would happen to the intricate landscape of our brain if it never dreamed? We will gently unravel this profound question, exploring the science and philosophy behind this fascinating hypothetical. As we settle into this exploration, I invite you to find a comfortable space. Perhaps you're nestled in your favorite armchair, or maybe you're already preparing for a peaceful night's rest. Wherever you are, feel the gentle anchor of this moment. Let me know in the comments below, what's your favorite way to prepare for a restful sleep? If these quiet journeys into the unknown resonate with you, consider joining our community. A gentle tap on the subscribe button ensures you won't miss our future explorations. It's a quiet way to stay connected to the unfolding mysteries of existence, and we'd be delighted to have you with us. Over the next 2.5 hours, we will traverse the stages of sleep, the architecture of the dreaming brain, and the potential consequences of a dreamless slumber. We'll explore memory consolidation, emotional processing, and the very nature of consciousness. So, let's breathe deeply, let go of the day, and allow ourselves to be softly carried into this fascinating contemplation. Our journey begins not with a jolt, but with a whisper. Before we even consider the absence of dreams, we must first understand the delicate act of falling asleep, the gateway to this altered state. You know, it's quite remarkable, isn't it? This gradual surrender to slumber. Our bodies, these intricate biological machines, have an internal conductor, a master of sorts, guiding us through the day and into the night. This conductor is our circadian rhythm, an ancient, internal clock nestled deep within our brain, in a tiny region called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN. It's like a gentle, persistent lullaby, whispering to us when it's time to wind down. As the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of lavender and rose, the SCN orchestrates a subtle symphony. It signals the release of melatonin, often called the hormone of darkness. It's not a harsh command, but a soft, warm invitation, like a cozy blanket being pulled up, telling our cells that the day's work is done and it's time for rest. And as this gentle signal spreads, our sleep doesn't just happen. It unfolds like the petals of a night blooming flower. We move through different stages, each with its own unique rhythm. First, there's the transition, a state we call N1. It's like standing on the edge of a quiet pond, the surface rippling gently. Your brain waves begin to slow down, moving from the busy chatter of wakefulness to a more relaxed hum. Then, we drift into N2, a lighter stage of sleep. Here, your brain waves become a little more organized, with brief bursts of activity called the sleep spindles. Imagine tiny ephemeral sparks of energy, like fireflies blinking in the twilight, helping to consolidate memories from the day. And finally we reach N3, the deepest, most restorative stage. This is where the slow, powerful waves of slow wave sleep dominate. It's like the deep, resonant hum of the earth itself, a time for profound physical and mental rejuvenation. Your heart rate slows to a gentle, steady beat, your blood pressure dips, and your body temperature drops a degree or two, creating the perfect environment for repair. But the night isn't just a one-way street to deep rest. It's a cyclical dance, and the most enigmatic partner in this dance is REM sleep. You might have heard of it, rapid eye movement sleep. It's a curious paradox. While your body is largely paralyzed, a state called muscle atonia, preventing you from acting out your dreams, your brain activity surges. It becomes almost as active as when you're awake, a flurry of electrical signals. And those rapid eye movements, they're like little flicks of a painter's brush across a canvas, as if your mind is busily sketching out the vivid landscapes of your dreams. We cycle through these stages, NREM and REM, several times throughout the night, each cycle a unique journey. Think of sleep onset as a vast, quiet library. As the day's noise fades, the librarians of your brain begin to dim the lights, lower the ambient sounds, and prepare the shelves for the night's quiet work of organizing thoughts and memories. Your body, too, is preparing. Your heart, which pounded with the rhythm of your daily endeavors, begins to soften its tempo. Your blood pressure, that indicator of your body's engagement with the world, gently recedes. It's a collective sigh, a collective relaxation, as your brain shifts its focus inward, from processing the external world to managing its internal landscape. But what if, as the lights dim, the storybook of dreams remained perpetually closed? Let's explore the very nature of these dream worlds. Dreams are not mere ephemera, they are intricate neurological events. To understand their absence, we must first appreciate their presence, the vibrant, often bizarre, architecture they build within our sleeping minds. So, let's gently pull back the curtain on this nocturnal theater,
shall we?
Our dreams, the most vivid and memorable ones at least, tend to unfurl during a very special phase of sleep known as rapid eye movement or REM sleep. It's a curious state, this REM. Imagine your brain, usually so orderly, suddenly deciding to throw a party. During REM, certain parts of our brain, particularly the limbic system, the seat of our emotions, our memories, our deepest feelings, become incredibly active. It's like the emotional core of your brain is suddenly given a spotlight. But at the same time, the prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic, for reason, for that little voice that says, "Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense," that part goes quiet. It's like the bouncer at the club has gone on a break. This is why dreams can feel so intensely emotional, so vivid, yet often so utterly nonsensical. Emotions are running high, memories are being shuffled and replayed, but the rational mind is taking a well-deserved nap. And what's orchestrating this internal spectacle? A cast of fascinating neurotransmitters. Think of them as the tiny messengers of your brain. During REM sleep, there's a surge in acetylcholine, a chemical that's like a conductor, signaling the brain to become more active, to fire up those dream-generating circuits. But then, on the flip side, the levels of norepinephrine and serotonin, the neurotransmitters that keep us alert, focused, and generally in a more stable mood when we're awake, these levels drop significantly. It's as if the brain is deliberately dampening the signals that would keep us tethered to reality, allowing the more whimsical, emotional, and associative parts to take center stage. It's a carefully calibrated chemical ballot designed to usher us into the dream world. Now, here's a truly remarkable piece of this sleeping architecture: REM atonia. It's a fancy term for the temporary paralysis of our voluntary muscles during REM sleep. Imagine your brain is producing this incredibly vivid, action-packed dream. Perhaps you're flying, or running from something, or even having a rather vigorous conversation. Without this built-in paralysis, we might quite literally act out our dreams, flailing about in our sleep. It's a protective mechanism, a biological safety net, ensuring that our inner adventures stay just that inner. The signals that would normally tell our muscles to move are actively blocked. It's a fascinating paradox, isn't it? The brain is buzzing with activity, creating movement and drama, yet the body remains perfectly still, a silent observer to the internal storm. But where does all this dream content actually come from? Is it a random jumble or something more? One prominent idea, the activation synthesis hypothesis, suggests that during REM sleep, random electrical signals fire up from the brainstem, like little sparks igniting in the dark. Our cortex then tries to make sense of these random firings, weaving them into a narrative, a story, using our memories and emotions as threads. It's like taking a handful of colorful, disconnected puzzle pieces and trying to force them into a picture. Over time, this theory has evolved, acknowledging that while there might be a random element, our personal experiences, our worries, our desires, also play a huge role in shaping the dreamscape. Imagine your brain during REM sleep is like a surrealist painter, given a palette of raw emotions, fragmented memories, and random neural impulses. Without the critic like prefrontal cortex looking over their shoulder, they create canvases that are both deeply personal and utterly abstract. This vibrant, active state is crucial, but what happens when this painter never picks up their brush? Let's construct our hypothetical scenario: a brain that enters sleep, cycles through its stages, but never generates a dream. What specific neural pathways or processes would need to be altered for this profound silence? Imagine, if you will, the intricate dance of sleep. We know that sleep isn't a simple off switch for the brain. It's a complex symphony of cycles, a rhythmic ebb and flow through different stages. Now, to truly imagine a dreamless sleep, we'd have to tamper with the very conductor of this orchestra. One way to silence the dream might be to disrupt the REM cycle itself. REM, or rapid eye movement sleep, is often considered the prime time for dreaming. For dreams to vanish, perhaps there would need to be a subtle, yet profound, alteration in the brainstem, that ancient, vital part of our brain. Or maybe it's a delicate imbalance in the neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers that whisper secrets between our neurons. Think of acetylcholine, a key player in REM sleep. A slight shift in its delicate balance, and the vivid tapestry of dreams might never be woven. It's like dimming a light bulb that usually shines with vibrant color, leaving only a faint, colorless glow. But what would this absence feel like subjectively? It's not just about forgetting dreams upon waking, like trying to catch mist in your hands. This would be a deeper void, a complete lack of internal narrative, of those fleeting visual landscapes or the echoes of unheard conversations. Imagine your mind's cinema screen remaining stubbornly blank, no matter how many reels of sleep it cycles through. There would be no spectral figures dancing in the darkness, no whispered secrets carried on the silent wind of sleep. It's the absence of that peculiar, often illogical, yet deeply personal unfolding of a story that happens when we're lost in slumber. It's a quietude that extends beyond mere memory. It's the absence of experience itself. It's important to distinguish this hypothetical dreamless state from sleep disorders we already know. Conditions like sleep apnea, for instance, can fragment sleep, leading to less restorative rest, but the brain can still generate dreams within the sleep it does manage to achieve. Insomnia, too, is a struggle to fall or stay asleep, but when sleep does occur, dreaming is still a possibility. Our dreamless sleep scenario is a very specific kind of absence. It's the dreaming process itself that's been meticulously removed, not just the ability to recall it or the overall quality of sleep. It's like having a perfectly still lake, rather than a lake that's constantly rippling with storms or choppy waves. So, what would the brain be doing in this profound silence? Would it still engage in REM, like brain activity, a sort of phantom limb of consciousness, but without the accompanying subjective experience? Or would it settle into a perpetual, shallow NREM state, a gentle, unvarying hum of rest? Perhaps the brain would still be performing its essential maintenance, its deep cleaning operations, but without the colorful, often nonsensical, internal dialogues that accompany REM. It's like a perfectly tuned engine running smoothly, but without the radio playing. Or maybe it's more like a vast library, where all the books are meticulously cataloged and shelved, but no one ever opens them to read the stories within. Imagine a grand theater. Sleep is the performance. In our scenario, the actors, the neural activity are present, the stage is set, but the script, the dream narrative is missing, and the audience, the conscious experience of dreaming, is never engaged. It's a stage ready for a play that will never be performed. With this dreamless silence established, we must now consider the fundamental roles dreams play in our waking lives. One of the most profoundly impacted functions is memory. Dreams, it's theorized, are deeply intertwined with how we store, sort, and solidify the day's experiences. Imagine your mind after a long day of absorbing the world like a bustling marketplace. So many sights, sounds, conversations, fleeting thoughts, all jostling for space. When we slip into sleep, especially during that vibrant REM stage, it's as if a quiet, diligent librarian takes over. This librarian's primary task is memory consolidation, a sort of mental housekeeping that sorts the significant from the ephemeral. During REM sleep, there's a fascinating phenomenon called neural replay. It's like the brain is quietly replaying snippets of your day, not in a linear story, like fashion necessarily, but in a way that strengthens the connections between neurons. Think of it as etching important pathways deeper into the neural landscape, making those memories more robust, more accessible for the future. This is particularly crucial for declarative memories, the facts, the dates, the faces, the stories you can consciously recall. Without the gentle hum of dreams, this replay might still occur, but perhaps with a different texture, a different kind of resonance. But what about those memories that aren't so much about what happened, but how to do something? These are our procedural memories, the skills we acquire, like riding a bicycle or playing a musical instrument. Even without a narrative dream, the brain might still be practicing these skills in a more abstract, pattern-based way. Imagine a musician's fingers, even in sleep, tracing the familiar patterns on an invisible fretboard. It's a subtler form of replay, perhaps focused on the motor sequences and the muscle memory itself. It's as if the brain is polishing the gears of a well-worn machine, ensuring its smooth operation without the need for a conscious rehearsal of the entire symphony. And then there are our emotional memories. The amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, is particularly active during REM sleep. This is where dreams often weave their most vivid tapestries tinged with joy, fear, or sadness. Sleep, and perhaps dreaming, seems to help us process and regulate these emotional experiences. It's like the brain is gently sifting through the emotional residue of the day, detaching the raw emotion from the specific event, making it less potent, more manageable. Without the narrative element of dreams, this emotional processing might still happen, but it could feel like a muted echo, a less cathartic release, potentially leaving those raw emotions a little more exposed, a little less integrated. This leads us to the fascinating idea of offline processing. During wakefulness, our brains are constantly bombarded with new sensory information. It's a noisy, busy environment. Sleep, especially dreamless sleep, offers a quiet sanctuary, a chance for the brain to process information without this constant barrage. It's like shutting down the main lights in the library to focus on organizing the shelves. This offline period allows for consolidation, integration, and perhaps even a deeper understanding of what's already been learned. But if dreams are a crucial component of this offline processing, a sort of guided tour through the archives, then their absence might mean the brain is still filing, but perhaps missing a layer of contextualization or emotional resonance. Consider your memories as a vast library. During sleep, the dreamless brain might still be filing books as consolidation. But without the dream's narrative, it's like the librarian is just stamping dates and shelving them alphabetically, without ever reading the stories or connecting themes. The data is organized, yes, but the richness, the interconnectedness, might be subtly diminished. If memory organization is affected, what about the processing of our emotional landscape? That's a question that gently tugs at the edges of our understanding, and it's where we'll drift next. Our emotional lives are complex, and dreams often serve as a peculiar, sometimes cathartic outlet. What happens when this emotional processing during sleep is stifled? Our brains are remarkably adept at navigating the sometimes stormy seas of our feelings, even when we're completely unconscious. During that vibrant, colorful stage of sleep we call REM, our amygdala, the brain's alarm system, is actually quite active. It's like a busy workshop, sifting through the day's emotional residue, the little sparks of joy, the prickles of annoyance, the deep wells of sadness. What's fascinating is that during REM sleep, this emotional processing happens in a way that seems to depotentiate those memories. It's as if the raw, sharp edges of an emotion are gently smoothed, making them less overwhelming when we wake. Imagine taking a potent spice, one that might be too strong to taste directly, and diluting it just enough so its essence can be appreciated without overwhelming the palate. That's a bit like what REM sleep might be doing for our emotional memories. Now, while the amygdala is busy with the emotional content, another crucial part of our brain, the there's prefrontal cortex, which is our logical, rational commander, actually takes a bit of a backseat during dreams. This reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex is rather interesting. It might be precisely what allows our dreams to be so wild and uninhibited, letting us explore emotions without the usual constraints of logic or social appropriateness. Think of it as a safe space, a canvas where emotions can be painted in their purest, most vivid hues, without immediate judgment or the need for a practical outcome. This unburdened exploration, this free-flowing emotional expression, could be a key part of how we find resolution, how we process difficult feelings and emerge from sleep with a lighter heart, ready to face the day. So, what happens when this dream state, this emotional processing, is absent? Research into REM sleep deprivation offers some clues, though it's not quite the same as a complete absence of dreaming. Studies show that when people are prevented from entering REM sleep, they tend to experience increased irritability, heightened anxiety, and a general decrease in their emotional resiliency. Their ability to cope with stress seems to diminish, like a delicate plant deprived of sunlight. If we were to extrapolate this to a hypothetical state of complete dreamlessness, one can only imagine a profound impact on our emotional equilibrium. It might be like trying to drain a bathtub without opening the plug. The water, the emotions would simply accumulate, becoming stagnant and heavy. And this brings us to the more profound, perhaps even painful, aspect of dreamlessness, the processing of traumatic experiences. Our dreams can be incredibly powerful tools for working through difficult, even traumatic events. They offer a unique, symbolic language to revisit and reframe painful memories, allowing us to integrate them into our life story without being constantly overwhelmed. Imagine a deep wound that needs to be cleaned and dressed before it can begin to heal. Dreams might be the gentle, yet persistent, hands that perform this vital task. Without this dream-based processing, the raw intensity of trauma might remain unaddressed, festering beneath the surface, hindering the natural, organic process of emotional healing. Think of your emotions as a turbulent river. Dreams can act like a serene, safe cove where the river's intensity is explored and calmed. In a dreamless sleep, the river might continue to flow, but without this temporary haven for processing, its turbulence might persist unchecked into the day. Beyond memory and emotion, how might this dreamless state affect our creative spark? The bizarre juxtapositions and unexpected connections within dreams are often cited as fertile ground for creativity. What happens to our innovative spirit when this dream forge is extinguished? Our waking minds are rather like meticulously organized libraries. Each book, each piece of information has its place, its Dewey Decimal Number, its logical shelf. And that's wonderful for rational thought, for building step-by-step arguments. But in the dream state, that library throws open its doors. The constraints, the quiet hum of order, it all softens. Suddenly, a book on ancient pottery might find itself nestled beside a treatise on quantum physics. Not because of any logical connection, but because a shared color, a similar texture, or even a fleeting emotion whispers between them. This associative thinking, this delightful disregard for rigid categories, is where true sparks of novelty often ignite. It's like letting all the ideas in the room mingle freely, no longer bound by their assigned seats. And have you ever experienced that magical moment? The ha moment that seems to bloom in the quiet hours, perhaps just as you're surfacing from sleep. It's as if the brain, freed from the day's relentless demands and the sharp focus of conscious attention, can finally rearrange the puzzle pieces in a way that was previously hidden. During REM sleep, with its unique neurochemical cocktail and its peculiar dance of brain activity, our minds might be doing a kind of background processing, a deep dive into the archives of our experiences, forging connections that our waking, logical selves would simply overlook. It's like a tireless night shift worker, sorting through the day's data, finding patterns and solutions we'd never find under the bright, scrutinizing light of noon. Now, if this dream, like associative processing, were to be silenced, what might happen to our capacity for divergent thinking? That's the ability to brainstorm, to explore multiple paths, to find not just one answer, but a whole bouquet of possibilities. Without the freedom to make those wild, unexpected leaps, our thinking might become more linear, more predictable. Imagine trying to paint a vibrant landscape with only a handful of muted colors, or trying to compose a symphony with only a single, repeated note. The richness, the depth, the sheer variety of potential solutions might be significantly diminished. Our minds might become so accustomed to the straight and narrow, they forget the joy of wandering off the path. It's also fascinating to consider the dream as a kind of error's internal simulator. Think of it as a low-stakes laboratory for the mind. We can try out scenarios, explore emotions, and even rehearse potential solutions to problems without any real-world consequences. It's a safe space to experiment, to push boundaries, to see what happens when the unexpected occurs. This ability to simulate, to play out possibilities, is absolutely crucial for both creativity and for navigating the complexities of life. It's like a pilot practicing emergency landings in a flight simulator. The more they practice in that safe, virtual space, the better prepared they are for the real thing. Imagine your waking mind as a well-ordered workshop, with tools neatly arranged. Your dreaming mind is like that same workshop at midnight, with the lights low, where discarded scraps might be combined in unexpected ways to create a new invention, a process less likely to happen under direct, critical gaze. If our internal world of memory, emotion, and creativity is altered, how might this manifest in our waking perception? Our senses paint the world, but during sleep, the brain continues to process sensory information in unique ways, often manifesting as dream content. What happens to this internal sensory landscape without dreams? It's fascinating to consider how our waking world is constructed, brick by sensory brick. We see the vibrant hues of a sunset, we hear the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze, we feel the comforting warmth of a mug in our hands. But when we sleep, and especially when we don't dream, this sensory tapestry seems to shift. It's not that our senses shut off entirely, but the brain's internal generation of sensory experiences becomes different. In dreams, we can conjure entire worlds from thin air. We can taste flavors that don't exist, feel textures that are utterly alien, hear symphonies composed of pure imagination, and see landscapes painted with colors we've never encountered in our waking lives. It's a profound testament to the brain's creative power, a kind of internal artist working with an infinite palette, even when the external world is quiet. This isn't just passively receiving echoes of the day, it's an active, vibrant construction of a new reality, one that can be as vivid, if not more so, than our waking moments. This leads us to ponder the idea of the brain's sensory replay. Some theories suggest that dreams might be a way for the brain to revisit and process the sensory data it collected during the day. But imagine this replay happening without the usual dream, like narrative, without the surreal juxtapositions and illogical leaps. It's like watching a movie of your day, but all the colors are muted, the sounds are slightly muffled, and the plot has been meticulously edited to remove any unexpected turns. Perhaps the brain is sifting through the day's experiences, replaying fragments, but without the dream state's ability to synthesize and alter them. These replays might be more like raw data, less like a story and more like a meticulously cataloged archive. It's a way to consolidate, to store, to perhaps even make sense of the overwhelming influx of information, but in a very different, perhaps more literal fashion. Now, what happens to our sensory integration when this dream-like synthesis is absent? Think about how we learn, how we grow, how we adapt. A lot of that comes from how our brain weaves together different sensory inputs, creating a coherent and nuanced understanding of the world. If dreams are, in part, this playful, experimental fusion of sensory experiences, then a lack of dreaming might mean a less flexible, less imaginative approach to integrating new information. Could it lead to a perception that's more rigid, more literal? Imagine a painter who only ever uses primary colors, never mixing them to create subtle shades or unexpected blends. Their art might be clear, but it would lack a certain depth, a certain richness. Similarly, a brain that doesn't engage in this dream, like sensory synthesis, might perceive the world with a more muted palette, a less nuanced understanding, perhaps missing those subtle harmonies that make life so beautifully complex. It's also quite interesting to consider the parallels between dream experiences and certain types of hallucinations. Both involve the brain generating sensory experiences that aren't directly triggered by external stimuli. In dreams, this generation is typically a rich, immersive, and often personal narrative. In certain altered states of consciousness, or during specific neurological conditions, hallucinations can occur, where individuals see, hear, or feel things that aren't there. This shared capacity of the brain to create internal sensory worlds, to conjure realities from within, is truly remarkable. It highlights the brain's fundamental ability to construct experience, a capacity that in the absence of dreams might manifest in entirely different, perhaps less understood ways. Think of your waking senses as tuning into a clear radio station. Dreams are like tuning into that same station but with the dial slightly off, picking up static, echoes, and distorted melodies, which can reveal unexpected patterns or harmonies. A dreamless sleep would be like that dial stuck firmly on the clear signal, missing the richer, though sometimes noisy spectrum. As we delve deeper, we must ask, what about the deeper, philosophical underpinnings of consciousness itself? Dreams offer a unique perspective on our own consciousness, a space where the self is both observer and participant. What does a dreamless sleep do to this inner dialogue? We've been exploring the quiet hum of the sleeping brain, and now we're venturing into the realm of dreams, or rather, the absence of them. It's a curious thought, isn't it? To sleep, but never to dream. What does this absence reveal about the very fabric of our being, about that elusive spark we call consciousness? The journey into consciousness is perhaps one of the most profound and perplexing scientific quests. We can map the intricate dance of neurons, trace the electrical whispers across synapses, and even identify the chemical ballet that accompanies our waking thoughts. But the hard problem, as philosophers call it, is how all this physical machinery gives rise to the rich, subjective tapestry of our inner world. How does the firing of a few million neurons transform into the feeling of warmth from the sun on your skin, the tasty of a ripe strawberry, or the pang of longing? Dreams, in their wild, untamed way, are a perfect illustration of this. They are pure subjective experience, spun from the threads of memory, emotion, and imagination, often with little regard for the rules of waking reality. They are the brain's own private theater, where anything is possible, and the audience is, well, you. And what of the self, within these dreamscapes? In our dreams, we often find ourselves inhabiting our familiar bodies, navigating familiar places. But just as often, the self can morph. We might be a different person, a child again, or even something entirely abstract, a disembodied awareness observing the unfolding narrative. It's as if our sense of self is a malleable substance in the dream state capable of stretching and contorting. So, if dreams were to vanish, what would happen to this fluid representation of ourselves? Would our waking sense of self become more rigid, more fixed? Or would its absence leave a subtle, perhaps unsettling, void in our understanding of who we are? This leads us to the fascinating phenomenon of lucid dreaming. Imagine being aware that you are dreaming, that you can, to some extent, influence the dream's unfolding. It's a state of heightened self-awareness within the dream, a moment where the observer and the participant merge with remarkable clarity. It suggests that the brain, even in its most fantastical states, possesses an incredible capacity for self-reflection. If our sleep were perpetually dreamless, would this capacity for introspection, this ability to observe our own inner workings, be diminished? Would the mirror of self-awareness remain perpetually clouded? Philosophers have long pondered the significance of dreams, weaving them into the grand tapestry of human existence. Some see dreams as a form of introspection, a way for the subconscious to process the day's events, to wrestle with unresolved emotions. Others view them as a portal to existential exploration, a space where we can confront our deepest fears and desires. And then there are those more ethereal whispers, suggesting that dreams might offer fleeting glimpses into alternate realities, parallel lives, or even a deeper, interconnected consciousness. If these profound explorations are silenced, what then becomes of our capacity for introspection, for understanding the deeper currents of our own being? Consider consciousness as a vast ocean. Waking life is sailing on the surface, navigating the currents, feeling the spray of the waves. Dreams are like diving into the depths, encountering bioluminescent creatures and hidden landscapes of the self. A dreamless sleep is like staying perpetually on the surface, never experiencing the profound, mysterious depths of one's own inner ocean. You'd still be on the water, of course, but you'd miss the vibrant, alien world that lies beneath. If the inner world is altered, how might this impact our external interactions and social cognition? Our interactions with others are complex dances of understanding and empathy. It's possible that dreams, through their simulation of social scenarios, play a subtle role in honing these skills. When we dream, it's not just about chasing shadowy figures or revisiting forgotten memories. Often, our sleeping minds invite familiar faces, sometimes even strangers, into these ephemeral stages. It's as if our brains are running little social simulations, playing out scenarios with the people we know, or perhaps even people we've never met in our waking lives. Think about it. You might find yourself having a quiet conversation with a childhood friend, or maybe a tense discussion with a boss you barely know. These aren't just random appearances, they're opportunities for the brain to simulate social dynamics, to explore the intricate web of human connection in a space where the usual rules of engagement don't quite apply. It's like a rehearsal, a silent workshop for our social selves. And this brings us to something truly fascinating of mirror neurons. These are like little echoes in our brains, firing not only when we perform an action ourselves, but also when we observe someone else performing that same action. They're thought to be a cornerstone of our ability to understand and share the feelings of others, the very essence of empathy. Now, imagine how these neurons might interact with our dream worlds. If dreams are simulating social interactions, are they also activating these mirror neurons in a way that allows us to practice feeling what others feel? It's a tantalizing thought, isn't it? That in our sleep, we might be subtly tuning our capacity for empathy, preparing ourselves for the emotional currents of waking life. This idea of practicing social scenarios in dreams is quite profound. Think of it as a safe, private playground for our social selves. In our dreams, we can try out different ways of responding, of interacting, of navigating tricky conversations or joyful reunions, all without the real-world consequences. It's a low-stakes environment where we can rehearse social situations, perhaps learning to be more assertive, more compassionate, or simply more present in our interactions. If we were to lose this dream-based practice, would our waking social performances become a little more awkward, a little less assured? It's like learning a new language. You wouldn't expect to be fluent without some practice, and perhaps our social skills are no different. And then there's the deep well of empathy and emotional understanding. Dreams often seem to be a processing ground for our emotions, revisiting feelings from the day, or even from years past. When we're dreaming about someone, we're often experiencing a spectrum of emotions associated with them: joy, frustration, longing, perhaps even a flicker of fear. By reprocessing these emotional memories and scenarios, dreams might be contributing to our capacity for empathy, helping us to better understand and resonate with the emotional states of others in our waking lives. It's like our sleeping brain is sifting through the emotional archives, learning the subtle nuances of human feeling, so that when we wake, we're a little more attuned to the emotional landscapes around us. Think of social interaction as a complex musical piece. Waking life is the performance. Dreams, in this analogy, are like practicing scales and arpeggios in a quiet room. Without this silent practice, the performance might be less fluid, less nuanced, and perhaps less emotionally resonant. We might miss a few notes, our timing could be a little off, and the overall harmony might suffer. As we refine our understanding of the brain's functions, we must also consider the impact on our more primal drives. Beneath the gentle hum of our conscious thought, a deeper current flows, a river of ancient instincts, survival mechanisms that have guided us through millennia. Do dreams offer a quiet space, a moonlit meadow, for these primal drives to be explored, perhaps even gently managed? Consider, for a moment, the threat simulation theory. It whispers that our dreams are like a clandestine rehearsal, a private virtual reality where we can practice our responses to all sorts of looming dangers. Imagine a silent, shadowy stage where we might face a predator, navigate a treacherous path, or confront a social snub, all without the actual sting of consequence. It's as if our sleeping minds are diligently, if sometimes bizarrely, honing our survival skills, ensuring that when the real wolves howl, we're a little more ready to stand our ground, or perhaps to find a clever escape. It's a fascinating idea, isn't it? That these nightly wanderings are not just random flickers of imagination, but a sophisticated, biological training ground. And within this dreamscape, our most fundamental, our most as instinctual behaviors can often surface. Think of the raw power of fear, the sharp edge of aggression, or the deep, resonant pull of desire. In dreams, these can manifest not always as a literal chase or a passionate embrace, but often in wonderfully exaggerated, symbolic forms. A towering wave might represent overwhelming anxiety, or a lost key could symbolize a yearning for connection. These primal drives, the very core of our being, are given a canvas in our dreams, a place where they can express themselves, sometimes in ways that are both startling and deeply revealing. It's like watching the raw clay of our nature being molded and remolded by an unseen hand. Now, let's ponder a more curious thought. What if this dream-based practice, this nightly simulation, were to cease? What might be the subtle, perhaps even imperceptible, Impact of dreamless sleep on our instinctual responses. If we no longer have that quiet internal gym for our primal selves, might we find ourselves a little less adept at navigating the real world challenges that stir those same ancient currents? It's a bit like a musician who never practices. Their innate talent might still be there, but the finely tuned responsiveness, the effortless grace, might begin to fade. Our capacity to manage fear, to channel aggression constructively, or to understand our deepest desires might, in the absence of this nocturnal processing, become a little less fluid, a little less understood. And in this quiet absence of dreams, one can't help but wonder if we're missing a vital form of communication. Perhaps the unconscious mind, that vast, deep ocean within us, uses dreams as a subtle conduit, a way to whisper its fundamental needs, to process its deepest fears, to let us know what truly matters at that primal, instinctual level. Dreams might be the unconscious mind's way of sending out little coded messages, ensuring that the essential engines of survival and connection are kept running smoothly, even when we're not consciously aware of their operation. It's like the quiet, steady pulse of a hidden engine, keeping everything vital alive. Imagine your instinctual drives as a wild animal residing within. Waking life is like keeping that magnificent, powerful creature safely leashed, its energy contained. Dreams, on the other hand, might be a controlled environment, a vast, moonlit clearing where this animal can roam freely, express its nature, and perhaps be understood by the gentle handler that is your conscious mind. A dreamless sleep would then be akin to keeping that leash perpetually tightened, the animal's true nature remaining entirely unacknowledged and unexamined within that nocturnal space, its instincts never quite given the chance to breathe. With our understanding of the brain's internal workings deepened, let's consider the potential physical manifestations of this altered sleep. The intricate dance of neurochemicals is essential for both sleep and wakefulness. How might the absence of dreaming, particularly REM sleep's unique neurochemical signature, affect this delicate balance? Imagine your brain not as a static machine, but as a vibrant, bustling city at night. During REM sleep, this city truly comes alive with a very specific kind of energy. It's during this phase that certain chemical messengers, our neurotransmitters, conduct a rather peculiar but vital orchestra. Think of acetylcholine, a maestro that suddenly becomes incredibly active, almost like the conductor of a grand, improvisational jazz ensemble. It's this surge that's thought to fuel the vivid, often bizarre, narratives of our dreams, powering the very machinery of imagination and memory consolidation. But then, almost as if on cue, other key players, like norepinephrine and serotonin, the more vigilant, steady voices of wakefulness, are largely silenced. They dim their lights, retreating to the quiet corners of the neural landscape, allowing the dream state symphony to play out in its full, uninhibited glory. This ebb and flow, this specific pattern of chemical activity, is what makes REM sleep so distinct, so uniquely suited for the wild, creative excursions of our dreaming minds. Now, what happens when this dream phase, this particular performance, is consistently skipped? When the brain, for whatever reason, bypasses the dreaming part of REM sleep, it's like trying to run a complex system with essential components missing. Chronic REM sleep deprivation, and by extension, a consistent lack of dreaming, can lead to what scientists call a rebound effect. It's as if the brain, starved of its usual chemical cocktail, tries to compensate by overproducing or overreacting when it finally gets a chance. This can manifest as altered levels of those very neurotransmitters. Imagine the norepinephrine and serotonin, those usually steady messengers, becoming a bit erratic, perhaps even amplified, when the brain does eventually dip into REM. This imbalance can ripple outwards, affecting not just our sleep patterns, but also our mood, our ability to focus, and even our emotional regulation. It's a subtle, yet profound, disruption in the brain's internal communication network. So, let's paint a picture of what the neurochemical landscape might look like in a brain that consistently bypasses the dreaming phase of REM. It's a fascinating, if somewhat unsettling, thought experiment. Would certain pathways, those pathways that are typically activated and perhaps even strengthened by the rich, dream-filled REM experience, remain perpetually suppressed or understimulated? Perhaps the acetylcholine maestro, deprived of its usual grand stage, might find its influence diminished over time. leading to a less vibrant internal world. Or maybe the silenced norepinephrine and serotonin, instead of simply dimming their lights, would begin to subtly, persistently color our waking thoughts and feelings with a different hue, a shade of perpetual vigilance, or perhaps a muted emotional palette. It's like a garden that's never allowed to bloom with its most vibrant flowers. The soil might still be rich, but the full expression of its potential remains unfulfilled, leaving a subtle but pervasive sense of something missing. And this intricate dance of neurochemicals doesn't exist in isolation. It's deeply intertwined with another fascinating connection, the gut-brain axis. Our gut, often called our second brain, communicates constantly with our central nervous system, influencing everything from our mood to our immune system. Sleep disorders, and the altered brain states that come with them, can significantly impact this bidirectional communication. If our brain's chemical symphony is out of tune due to a lack of dreaming, it's plausible that this disruption could send discordant notes down to our gut. This might manifest as changes in our gut microbiome, the trillions of tiny organisms that live within us, or even affect the signals that travel between our gut and our brain, potentially leading to a cascade of subtle, yet widespread, effects on our overall well-being. Your brain's neurochemistry is like a finely tuned orchestra. REM sleep with dreams is a complex symphony, with specific instruments playing distinct roles. A dreamless sleep would be like performing that symphony without the violins or the choir, leaving crucial melodic and harmonic elements missing, potentially affecting the overall resonance and balance. If the neurochemical symphony is altered, what are the broader implications for our overall well-being? Do you ever feel like your mood is directly tied to how well you slept? It's a question worth pondering as we move deeper into this fascinating landscape. Sleep is foundational to our physical health. While we've explored mental effects, how might a dreamless sleep subtly influence our body's physical resilience and restorative processes? It's fascinating how our bodies, much like a quiet, old clock, keep ticking away, performing their essential duties even when we're lost in slumber. And just as a clock needs its gears oiled and its springs wound, our bodies rely on sleep for a deep, intricate form of maintenance. One of the most profound ways sleep supports our physical well-being is through its intricate dance with our stress response system. Think of the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, as the body's master conductor, orchestrating our reaction to challenges, big or small. During sleep, especially during those REM cycles we've been talking about, this conductor is meant to take a gentle breath, to reset. When dreams are absent, or the REM sleep is significantly disrupted, it's like the conductor is still on edge, unable to fully relax. This can lead to a persistent hum of stress hormones, like cortisol, circulating in our system, which over time can wear down our physical defenses, making us more vulnerable to all sorts of ailments. It's a subtle erosion, a quiet whisper of imbalance. And then there's the immune system, that incredible internal army that stands guard against invaders, the tiny microbes that try to breach our defenses. We know from countless studies that a good night's sleep is like a powerful boost for this army. During sleep, our bodies produce and release cytokines, crucial proteins that help us fight inflammation and infection. It's during this restorative period that immune cells are replenished and strengthened. Now, imagine if the architecture of our sleep, the very rhythm of it, were altered, if the dreaming phase, often associated with emotional processing and memory consolidation, were somehow muted or absent. It's not a stretch to imagine that this could impact how effectively our immune system can mount a defense. It's like sending our soldiers to patrol without giving them their full training or their vital supplies. They might still be there, but their readiness, their sheer resilience against a sudden onslaught, could be compromised. Our cardiovascular health, too, finds a haven in the quiet hours of sleep. As we drift off, our heart rate typically slows, and our blood pressure gently descends. This is a crucial period of respite for our heart and blood vessels, allowing them to recover from the day's exertions. Heart rate variability, a measure of the tiny fluctuations in the time between heartbeats, is particularly important here. Higher variability generally indicates a healthier, more adaptable heart. REM sleep, with its characteristic brain activity, is thought to play a role in regulating this variability, helping to keep our cardiovascular system in a state of graceful equilibrium. If our sleep becomes a flat, unchanging landscape, devoid of the rich tapestry of dreaming, it's possible that this delicate balancing act is disrupted. The gentle ebb and flow that protects our heart might be replaced by a more rigid, less responsive rhythm, like a river that's been channeled too rigidly, losing its natural, life-giving meanders. And beneath it all, the quiet hum of cellular repair and growth. Deep sleep, that profound, almost stone-like state of slumber, is when our bodies really get to work on mending. It's when tissues are repaired, when growth hormones are released, and when our cells essentially undergo their own form of rejuvenation. Think of it as the body's diligent night shift, meticulously fixing and rebuilding. While deep sleep is the primary focus for this physical restoration, the overall architecture of sleep, the entire symphony of its stages, including REM, contributes to this process. REM sleep, with its unique brain activity, might even play a role in optimizing these repair mechanisms, perhaps by clearing out cellular waste products or ensuring that the right signals are sent to the right places. A sleep that lacks the dreaming component, that feels somehow incomplete, might mean that while the basic repairs are happening, the more nuanced, sophisticated aspects of cellular rejuvenation are not quite reaching their full potential. It's like a busy workshop where the main machinery is running, but the fine tuning and the quality control are being overlooked. Your body is like a complex garden. Deep sleep NREM is like the watering and sunlight, essential for growth. REM sleep with dreams is like the pruning and pest control, ensuring the garden remains healthy and resilient. A dreamless sleep might mean the essential watering happens, but the vital maintenance and protection against subtle ailments are neglected. If our physical and mental states are subtly shifted, how might this impact our very perception of reality? Dreams are often surreal, blurring the lines between what is real and what is imagined. What happens to our grounding in reality when this internal surrealism is absent? It's a curious thought, isn't it? When we're asleep and the dream world unfolds, our brain's usual reality testing mechanisms seem to take a vacation. They're the vigilant sentinels of our waking lives, constantly checking, verifying, saying, "Does this make sense? Is this actually happening?" But in dreams, these guards are often asleep at their posts. That's why we can fly, or have conversations with talking teacups, or find ourselves suddenly in a place we've never been before, and we just accept it. There's no internal alarm bell going off, no insistent whisper of doubt. The bizarre becomes the mundane, the impossible, simply the way things are. It's like the brain willingly suspends its disbelief, allowing the canvas of the mind to be painted with whatever wild, illogical strokes come to it. And then there's the contrast. The sheer startling jolt of waking up. One moment you're navigating a labyrinth made of jelly, the next you're blinking at the familiar ceiling of your bedroom, the scent of stale air, and perhaps a hint of lavender from your pillow. This stark, almost jarring transition from the utterly illogical dreamscape to the predictable, rule-bound waking world is crucial. It's like a constant recalibration, a gentle but firm reminder of what constitutes our everyday existence. Without that dramatic shift, without that internal narrative of, "That was a dream, this is real," would the edges of our reality begin to soften? Would the solid ground beneath our feet feel a little less firm, a little more permeable? Imagine for a moment a life where dreams never visited. A mind that only ever experienced the world in its waking, logical form. Might that lead to a more literal perception of everything? Perhaps our language would lose some of its poetic flair, its ability to conjure imagery through metaphor and simile. If you've never experienced the surreal, the wonderfully nonsensical, would you be less inclined to see the world through a lens of imagination? It's possible that without the nightly excursions into the fantastical, our understanding of experience itself might become more rigid, more confined to the tangible, the directly observable. The rich tapestry of human understanding, woven with threads of both logic and fancy, might become a simpler, less vibrant cloth. And yet, there's a gentle paradox here. While dreams can feel utterly divorced from our waking reality, perhaps they, in their very strangeness, serve a purpose in grounding us. By experiencing the impossible, the absurd, the deeply emotional but illogical, we gain a broader appreciation for the spectrum of what consciousness can be. The dream world, in all its wildness, can act as a sort of mental playground, a space where the rules are bent and broken, allowing us to return to wakefulness with a clearer, perhaps even more profound sense of what real truly means. It's in the contrast, the ebb and flow between these two states, that our perception of reality is shaped and solidified. Think of waking reality as a clear, sharp photograph. Dreams are like abstract paintings, exploring different textures and colors. A life without dreams might be like only ever seeing those clear photographs, never experiencing the evocative, subjective interpretations that paintings offer, potentially making the world feel less layered. We've explored the individual, but what about the collective human experience? Across cultures and throughout history, dreams have held profound significance, influencing art, religion, and personal guidance. What would a humanity that never dreamed be like? Think about it for a moment. For as long as we've been human, we've been dreaming. These nightly voyages into the subconscious, these flickering, often nonsensical, but sometimes deeply meaningful landscapes, have been a constant companion. In ancient times, dreams weren't just random firings of neurons. They were seen as messages from the gods, whispers of the future, or even direct conversations with the divine. Imagine a world where a king's decision, a farmer's planting schedule, or a warrior's strategy was guided by the visions that visited them in sleep. Dreams were the oracles, the prophets, the silent counselors woven into the very fabric of belief systems. They offered solace in times of grief, direction in times of confusion, and a sense of connection to something larger than the waking world. It's a narrative that stretches back to the dawn of our shared story, a universal language spoken in the quiet hours. And oh, the art! The music! The literature! Dreams have been the wellspring, the fertile soil from which so many of our most cherished cultural creations have sprung. Think of the surreal landscapes of Dali, the haunting melodies born from a composer's slumber, the epic tales that echo the logic, defying narratives of our own dream lives. Dreams have provided the raw material for our collective imagination, offering us glimpses into the bizarre, the beautiful, and the deeply human. They've given us metaphors, symbols, and entire worlds to explore, enriching our understanding of ourselves and the universe around us. It's as if the dream state is a hidden studio, where the most audacious and evocative masterpieces are quietly conceived, waiting for the dawn to bring them into the light of day. Now, let's gently nudge our thinking towards the evolutionary side of things. Why might we have developed this peculiar habit of dreaming in the first place? Some fascinating theories suggest that dreaming might have offered a tangible survival advantage. Picture our ancient ancestors, navigating a world teeming with dangers. Perhaps dreaming acted as a sort of internal simulator, a safe space to practice responding to threats. You could run through scenarios of being chased by a predator, or navigating a treacherous landscape, all without any real-world risk. Others propose that dreams might have been crucial for social bonding, allowing us to rehearse social interactions, understand complex group dynamics, or even process emotional conflicts within a secure, internal theater. It's like a nightly rehearsal for life, honing our skills for the waking world. So, what if we imagine a humanity that never dreamed, a species that simply slept, their minds utterly silent and unvisited by these internal narratives? How different would our cultures be? Would our art be flatter, less imaginative, lacking that touch of the surreal that makes it so compelling? Would our religions lack the prophetic or mystical elements that have so often sprung from dream experiences? Perhaps our understanding of ourselves, our very sense of identity, would be less nuanced, less able to delve into the hidden depths of our own psyches. It's a thought that leaves a peculiar quietness in the mind, a sense of something vital missing from the human experience. Human culture is like a vast, evolving tapestry. Dreams have been a consistent thread woven through this tapestry, adding vibrant colors, intricate patterns, and symbolic meanings. A dreamless humanity would be like that tapestry, but with entire sections missing, leaving gaps in its narrative and a less rich, less complex overall design. It would be a story told with fewer adjectives, a melody played with fewer notes. With this broad perspective, let's revisit the core scientific question. What specific brain regions are most implicated in this fascinating phenomenon of dreaming? To truly understand dream absence, We must pinpoint the neurological machinery responsible for their creation, starting at the very foundation of our brain. We're venturing now into the quiet, ancient parts of our brain, the bedrock upon which all our more complex thoughts and feelings are built. Think of the brainstem, that sturdy stalk connecting your brain to your spinal cord, and nestled within it, the pons. It's here, in this surprisingly compact region, that the spark of dreaming is often ignited. The pons, you see, is like the master switchboard for REM sleep, that wonderfully active stage where our eyelids flutter and our minds paint vivid, often nonsensical, tapestries. It's the pons that sends out the crucial signals, the whispers that tell our brain to enter this peculiar state of consciousness, a state so essential for the rich, internal theater of our dreams. Without the pons' gentle nudge, REM sleep, and by extension, dreaming, might simply fail to materialize, leaving us adrift in a sea of unbroken, dreamless slumber. Within this humble pons, a particular group of neurons hums with activity, the cholinergic neurons. These are the messengers, the tiny sparks that fire and send waves of excitement throughout the brain, particularly up into the cortex, that vast, intricate landscape of our higher thoughts and perceptions. Imagine them as the artists who prepare the canvas, laying down the vibrant undercoat of neural activity that will later be filled with the swirling colors and shapes of our dreams. When these cholinergic pathways are firing, they awaken the sleeping mind, stirring the very neurons that will weave the narratives of our nocturnal journeys. They are, in essence, the conductors of the dream symphony, bringing the orchestra to life with their potent, excitatory song, and as these dream-igniting signals surge upwards, a fascinating counterpoint arises from the very same pons. Pathways descend, like gentle silencing hands, to the spinal cord, enacting a profound state of muscle atonia. This is the physical manifestation of our dreams, the paralysis that keeps us from acting out the wild chases or dramatic dialogues we experience while asleep. It's a protective measure, a biological safety net that ensures our inner world remains just that, internal. These descending pathways, originating from the pons, whisper a command of stillness to our motor neurons, rendering our limbs heavy and unresponsive, allowing our dreams to unfold without physical consequence. Indeed, scientists have peered into the effects of damage to this vital region. When the pons or specific areas within it are injured, the consequences for REM sleep and dreaming are profound. Studies of individuals with lesions in these critical zones often reveal a dramatic reduction, or even a complete absence, of REM sleep. It's as if the conductor's baton has been stilled, the orchestra silenced, and the intricate dance of dreaming simply cannot begin. These observations paint a stark picture. The pons isn't just a facilitator of dreams, it's a primary architect, a foundational element in their very construction. Think of the brainstem, particularly the pons, as the conductor of the REM sleep orchestra. It signals when to begin, which sections to play, and when to quiet certain instruments, muscles. In our hypothetical, this conductor might be present, but unable to cue the unique dream movement, leaving the symphony incomplete, the stage empty of its most vivid performances. But the pons doesn't work in isolation. What other brain regions are intimately involved? While the brainstem initiates, the thalamus and cerebral cortex are where sensory information is processed and interpreted, forming the vivid tapestry of our dreams. So imagine this vast, intricate city of your mind, and the thalamus. Well, it's like the grand central station of all incoming messages. Every sight, every sound, every touch, every scent, it all passes through this central hub before being whisked away to the appropriate neighborhoods in the cerebral cortex for processing. During our waking hours, it's a very busy place, diligently sorting and directing the torrent of information from the outside world. But during REM sleep, something rather curious happens. The thalamus, it doesn't exactly shut down, but its usual role as a gatekeeper for external stimuli seems to loosen its grip. It becomes a bit more permissive. It still relays information, yes, but it also starts to amplify and even generate signals from within. It's like the station masters start receiving dispatches, not just from the usual incoming trains from the bustling city outside, but also from forgotten depots, from quiet, dusty warehouses filled with memories and emotions, all ready to be sent out into the system. And where do these internally generated signals go? They surge into the cerebral cortex, the vast, folded landscape that is the seat of our conscious thought, our perception, our very sense of self. During REM sleep, the cortex lights up like a city at night, buzzing with activity that, in many ways, mimics the patterns we see when we're wide awake. Sensory areas, the parts of your brain that normally process what you see, hear, and feel from the external world, are surprisingly active. It's as if they're receiving these phantoms signals from the thalamus, and doing their best to make sense of them, to weave them into a coherent experience. This is why dreams can feel so real, so immersive, so vivid. Your visual cortex might be firing as if you're seeing a fantastical landscape, your auditory cortex as if you're hearing music or voices all conjured from within. Now, there's one particular region of the cortex that tends to take a bit of a back seat during these REM sleep excursions, the prefrontal cortex. Specifically, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that's responsible for a lot of our higher-level thinking, our logic, our planning, our critical judgment, and our ability to assess reality. When its activity is dampened, as it is during REM sleep, it's as if the internal sensor takes a nap. This is why dreams can be so wonderfully bizarre, so illogical, so unburdened by the constraints of waking life. The usual rules don't seem to apply. You might find yourself flying, or talking to someone who's long gone, or experiencing emotions that feel disproportionate to any apparent cause. It's the prefrontal cortex taking a break, allowing the more primal, emotional, and associative parts of the brain to take the reins. So, you have this fascinating interplay. The thalamus, acting as this wonderfully selective relay, sending out both echoes of the outside world and whispers from the deep archives of the mind. And the cortex, particularly those sensory and associative areas, receiving these signals, and in the absence of a fully engaged prefrontal cortex, attempting to construct a narrative, a world, a dream. It's a symphony of internal communication, where memories, emotions, and sensory fragments are synthesized, sometimes into something beautifully coherent, and other times into something delightfully fragmented and surreal. It's this dynamic dance between the thalamus and the cortex that allows for the creation of these rich, often inexplicable, inner experiences. Imagine the thalamus as a busy train station, directing passengers those neural signals to their destinations within the vast city of the cerebral cortex. During REM sleep, it's as if more trains are running, but these trains aren't just carrying passengers from the usual outside world stations. No, they're pulling in from internal depots, from quiet, forgotten corners filled with memories and raw emotions, creating a truly unique internal journey. This intricate network is key. But what about the emotional centers that give dreams their power? Dreams are rarely neutral, they are often charged with powerful emotions. The limbic system, the seat of our feelings, is a vital player in this nocturnal theater. You know, when we talk about dreams, we're not just talking about a silent movie playing behind our eyelids. Often, dreams are vibrant, pulsing with feelings that can be as intense as anything we experience when awake. And the maestro orchestrating this emotional symphony, this inner landscape of joy, fear, or even that peculiar dream, logic, melancholy, is largely our limbic system. Think of it as the ancient, deeply feeling heart of our brain, a place where raw emotion takes root and blossoms, or sometimes wilts. During sleep, especially during that rapid eye movement stage or REM sleep, this limbic system, particularly a structure called the amygdala, seems to wake up with a particular fervor. The amygdala, often described as the brain's alarm system, is exquisitely sensitive to emotional stimuli. In dreams, it's as if this alarm is set to a higher sensitivity, responding not just to immediate threats, but to echoes of past fears, lingering anxieties, and even the whisper of nascent joys. It's this heightened activity that can imbue our dreams with that potent emotional charge, making a mundane dream about, say, a lost sock, feel like a profound existential crisis, or a simple flight through the air feel like pure, unadulterated bliss. It's the amygdala that paints these emotional hues onto the canvas of our sleeping mind. Now, the amygdala doesn't work in isolation, of course. It's deeply intertwined with another crucial part of our limbic system, the hippocampus. The hippocampus is like the brain's meticulous archivist, responsible for consolidating our memories, for sifting through the day's experiences and deciding what's important enough to store away. During sleep, the hippocampus is busy weaving the threads of our waking lives into the tapestry of our long-term memory. And when it interacts with that emotionally charged amygdala, something quite fascinating happens. It's as if the hippocampus is saying, this particular memory, this moment, it had a strong emotional tag attached to it by the amygdala. Let's make sure that emotional resonance is preserved, perhaps even amplified, in the dream narrative. This collaboration might explain why our dreams often feel so personal, so deeply connected to our inner emotional world. They're not just random images, they're often imbued with the emotional weight of our lived experiences, the memories that matter most to our feeling selves. Let's imagine, for a moment, what it might be like if this emotional core of dreaming were silenced. If, for some reason, our REM sleep, and thus our dreaming, was consistently absent. We know from studies on REM sleep deprivation that even short periods of this can lead to significant emotional dysregulation. People become more irritable, less able to cope with stress, their emotional responses becoming more volatile, like a poorly tuned instrument. Now, extrapolate that. If you were to exist in a state of perpetual dreamlessness, it's not a stretch to imagine a profound impact on your emotional equilibrium. Your ability to process and integrate the emotional residue of your experiences might be significantly impaired. That gentle, subconscious emotional housekeeping that dreams seem to perform could be missing, leaving your emotional state feeling raw, perhaps even chaotic. It's like trying to keep a garden tidy without ever weeding or pruning. Things can quickly become overgrown and unmanageable. And this brings us to a truly intriguing question. How does the brain generate that subjective feeling of emotion within a dream? When you're dreaming that you're soaring through the sky, for instance, there's no actual wind rushing past your face, no physical sensation of height. Yet, you feel the exhilaration, the freedom, the sheer joy of it. This suggests that the limbic system, in its dream state, is capable of conjuring these feelings from within, drawing on the vast reservoir of past emotional experiences. It's as if the brain can simulate the feeling of an emotion, independent of any external trigger. It's a testament to the power of our inner world, the capacity of our minds to create rich, vibrant, and deeply felt experiences, even when the physical world is entirely absent. It's a profound form of internal alchemy. Your limbic system is like the emotional composer of your brain's opera. During dreams, it writes powerful arias and dramatic interludes, using memories as its libretto. Without dreams, this composer might still be present, but its most expressive and evocative pieces would never be performed. With the key brain regions identified, let's consider the profound impact on our cognitive abilities. Cognition encompasses a vast array of mental processes. How might the absence of dreams subtly, or perhaps not so subtly, affect our thinking, learning, and problem-solving capabilities? It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? When we consider our waking minds, we often speak of executive functions. These are the conductors of our inner orchestra, the ones that guide our planning, our decision-making, and even our ability to hold back those impulsive little urges that bubble up. Imagine our dreams as a sort of a mental gymnasium for these functions. In the surreal, often illogical landscapes of our dreams, we might be unconsciously practicing scenarios, running through possibilities, or even rehearsing the delicate art of restraint. Without this nightly rehearsal, could these vital executive skills, these finely tuned mechanisms of our intellect, begin to feel a little unpracticed? Like a muscle that's not regularly flexed, perhaps they might lose some of their innate agility, their readiness for the demands of the day. And what about our ability to simply pay attention, to zero in on a single thought, a particular task, or the subtle nuances of a conversation, like a hummingbird hovering over a bloom? It's easy to see how a lack of dreaming could impact this. Dreams, with their often fragmented and shifting narratives, demand a certain kind of a mental vigilance, a capacity to track disparate threads even as they weave and unweave. This constant, albeit subconscious, engagement might be what sharpens our focus for the waking world. Without that nightly mental workout, that gentle nudging of our attention span, we might find our focus becoming a little more diffused, like trying to catch sunlight on a cloudy day. Then there's the wonderful, almost magical ability of cognitive flexibility. This is our capacity to shift gears, to adapt our thinking when a situation changes, to see things from new angles, like turning a kaleidoscope to reveal a fresh pattern. Dreams, with their wild associations, their unexpected juxtapositions of people and places and ideas, are perhaps the ultimate playground for this very skill. They teach our minds to connect the seemingly unconnected, to embrace the unexpected. If we were to lose this dream-weaving capacity, would our thinking become a little more rigid, a little less inclined to dance with novelty? Would we find ourselves stuck on a single pathway, unable to easily detour onto a more interesting or productive route? And of course, we can't ignore the profound connection between dreaming and of learning. We've touched on this before, the idea that dreams help to consolidate our memories, to file away the day's experiences, to strengthen the neural pathways that represent new knowledge and skills. It's like our brain is meticulously cataloging everything it's encountered, deciding what's important and what can be gently set aside. Without this nightly sorting and filing, this dream-powered memory consolidation, our capacity to learn efficiently, to truly absorb and retain new information, might be significantly diminished. Imagine trying to build a library without a librarian. The books would just pile up, disorganized and inaccessible. Think of cognitive functions as tools in a toolbox. Waking life is using them for daily tasks. Dreams are like a workshop where these tools are periodically examined, sharpened, and perhaps even combined in novel ways. A dreamless sleep might mean the tools are stored away without this essential maintenance, potentially becoming duller over time. If our cognitive tools are less sharp, how might this affect our self-perception and identity? Our sense of who we are is built over time, influenced by our experiences, memories, and reflections. Dreams offer a unique, often fragmented, reflection of the self. When we're dreaming, we're almost always the main character, aren't we? It's like we're starring in our own private film, experiencing everything from that deeply personal, first-person perspective. We're the one running through the misty forest, the one trying to find that lost key, the one feeling the wind whisper secrets against our skin. It's our story, unfolding within the theater of our own minds. We're not usually observing ourselves from afar, like watching a documentary. No, we're of it, fully immersed, feeling the weight of every emotion, the texture of every imagined moment. This constant presence, this starring role, it's a powerful way our sleeping mind engages with its own narrative, with the essence of us. And within these dream narratives, it's fascinating to consider how we might be exploring different facets of ourselves, the ones we keep tucked away in the quiet corners of our waking lives. Dreams can be like a secret garden, a place where suppressed desires, those quiet longings we rarely acknowledge, can bloom. Or perhaps they're a shadowy cavern where our deepest fears, the ones that prickle at the edges of our awareness, can take on monstrous forms. Sometimes, we might even encounter alternate versions of ourselves, selves that are braver, or perhaps more reckless, or even just different. It's as if our unconscious mind, in its infinite creativity, is offering us a safe space to try on these other identities, to see how they feel, without any real-world consequences. It's a kind of psychic dress-up, a gentle exploration of the vast landscape of who we could be. Now, let's think about what happens when this dream landscape starts to fade, when the REM sleep, the very engine of dreaming, is disrupted. Studies looking into dream deprivation, particularly the kind that occurs when REM sleep is suppressed, have shown some rather intriguing effects. People who are prevented from dreaming can sometimes experience a shift in their self-concept. Their mood might become more labile, like a weather vane caught in a gusty wind, swinging unpredictably. They might feel a subtle but persistent sense of unease, a feeling that something essential is missing. It's almost as if their internal compass, their sense of who they are and how they relate to the world, becomes a little less steady, a little less clear, when the nightly theater of dreams is dimmed. Philosophers and psychologists have long mused about the role of the unconscious in shaping our identity. It's this vast, hidden ocean beneath the surface of our conscious awareness. Dreams, in this view, are like the waves that rise from that ocean, bringing to the surface fragments of its depths. They're not always clear messages, of course, Often they're symbolic, a kind of dream language we have to learn to interpret. But it's believed that through these expressions, the unconscious mind is actively participating in the ongoing construction of our identity, weaving in those hidden desires, those unresolved conflicts, those deeply buried memories. It's a continuous, subtle process, and when dreaming is curtailed, it's like muffling a vital channel of communication between the conscious and the unconscious self. Your identity is like a sculpture being shaped. Waking life provides the primary chiseling, the bold strokes that define the main form. Dreams, in this analogy, are like a sculptor's subconscious contemplation, where they might see the sculpture from different angles, experiment with different finishes, or even envision entirely new forms that subtly influence the final creation. It's a quiet, internal dialogue that refines the masterpiece. As we approach the culmination of our exploration, let's consider the more subtle, yet significant, impacts. We've focused so much on the absence of dreams, haven't we? On that quiet, unwritten page in the book of our night. But it's crucial to remember that dreams, or the lack thereof, are part of a larger, interconnected sleep architecture. What happens to the overall balance of our slumber when that vibrant, sometimes chaotic, tapestry of REM sleep is somehow bypassed or erased? You see, our sleep isn't just one long, unbroken stretch of unconsciousness. It's a beautifully orchestrated dance, a cyclical journey through different stages of rest. We begin with the lighter stages of NREM sleep, those gentle descents into quietude, before we dip into the deeper, more restorative phases of slow-wave sleep. Then, like a tide pulling back, we often transition into REM sleep, the realm of rapid eye movements, where our brains become surprisingly active, painting those vivid, often nonsensical dreamscapes. This cycle repeats itself, usually about 4 to 6 times throughout the night, with each cycle subtly shifting in its composition. The early cycles might lean more towards deep NREM, while the later ones tend to feature longer periods of REM. It's a rhythm, a natural ebb and flow that guides us through the hours of darkness. Now, if we were to imagine a scenario where REM sleep, and by extension dreams, were consistently absent, it's fascinating to ponder how this might ripple through the rest of the sleep cycle. Would the absence of this REM phase somehow prompt our brains to compensate by extending the durations of the NREM stages? Perhaps we'd linger longer in that deep, restorative slow, wave sleep, like a traveler who, having missed a planned stop, lingers a little longer at the previous scenic overlook. Or, conversely, could the disruption of this predictable pattern lead to more frequent, subtle awakenings, a kind of internal recalibration as the brain tries to find a rhythm it's no longer accustomed to? It's like a clockwork mechanism missing a key cog. Does the rest of the machinery simply run faster, or does it falter and stutter? The prevailing scientific view, and it's a view built on a wealth of intricate research, is that all sleep stages serve vital, interconnected functions. They're not isolated islands of rest, but rather integral parts of a whole. NREM sleep, particularly slow-wave sleep, is crucial for physical restoration, for cellular repair, for consolidating declarative memories, the facts and figures of our waking lives. REM sleep, on the other hand, is thought to be paramount for emotional processing, for consolidating procedural memories, the skills and habits we learn, and for creative problem solving. The absence of one, it's theorized, might not just leave a void, but could potentially impact the efficacy of the others. Imagine trying to build a house, and leaving out the essential framework. The walls might stand for a while, but their structural integrity would be compromised. This brings us to the profound importance of a complete sleep architecture. It's not just about accumulating a certain number of hours in bed, or even about achieving a specific amount of deep sleep. Optimal health, both mental and physical, seems to require the full spectrum of sleep experiences. It's about allowing our brains to engage in all the different restorative and consolidating processes that each stage offers. Think of it like this: sleep is like a symphony with distinct movements. We have the slow, deep adagio of NREM, where the melodies are simple, profound, and deeply grounding. Then we have the more complex, dynamic allegro of REM, where the music becomes more intricate, more passionate, and perhaps a little unpredictable. A dreamless sleep is like performing this symphony, but skipping the allegro entirely. While the adagio might still be played, and it might even be played beautifully, the overall richness, the emotional range, and the structural integrity of the piece would be fundamentally compromised. We'd miss the soaring crescendos, the intricate harmonies, the very essence of what makes the symphony complete. With all these potential impacts considered, with the delicate balance of our sleep stages, perhaps subtly but significantly altered, let's attempt to synthesize them into a cohesive picture. What does this tell us about the true nature of a good night's rest? The absence of dreams is not an isolated event, but likely triggers a cascade of neurobiological changes, affecting multiple systems in intricate ways. It's like a single stone dropped into a perfectly still pond, isn't it? The ripples spread, touching every shore, altering the surface in ways we might not immediately perceive. When our REM sleep, that vibrant theater of the mind where dreams unfurl, is silenced, it's not just a quiet night. It's a disruption in a fundamental biological rhythm. Consider, for a moment, what happens to the very architecture of our thoughts, our memories. REM sleep, it turns out, is a crucial time for synaptic plasticity. This is the brain's way of pruning away the unnecessary connections, the neural cobwebs, and strengthening the pathways we use most often. It's like a gardener tending to a delicate bonsai, shaping and refining. Without this nightly tending, without the vivid, sometimes chaotic rehearsal of REM, these essential processes might falter. Imagine learning something new, a complex skill, or even a simple fact. The brain needs to consolidate that information to make it stick. REM sleep plays a vital role in this, helping to weave new experiences into the tapestry of our existing knowledge. If that thread is missing, the whole fabric could begin to unravel, leaving us with a mind that's less agile, less able to adapt and learn. And then there are the subtle whispers of neurotransmitters, those tiny chemical messengers that orchestrate so much of our inner world. When the dream state is absent, it's plausible that these delicate balances could be nudged, creating feedback loops that amplify the initial disruption. Think of a finely tuned orchestra. If one section starts playing out of sync, it can throw the entire performance into disarray. Serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, these are the conductors of our mood, our focus, our very sense of well-being. If REM sleep, which is known to influence these systems, is suppressed, these neurotransmitters might begin to drift from their optimal levels. This imbalance could then feed back into other brain regions, creating a cascade of effects. We might find ourselves experiencing shifts in mood, perhaps a dulling of emotional responses, or a heightened sense of anxiety. Our cognitive abilities, our capacity for clear thought and problem solving, could also be subtly altered, like a radio signal becoming increasingly fuzzy. It's a complex dance, and when one partner falters, the music itself can change. Furthermore, this altered pattern of brain activity, this absence of the REM state, might also begin to influence how different parts of our brain talk to each other. We often think of the brain as a collection of distinct regions, but in reality, it's a vast, interconnected network, a bustling city of electrical signals. During sleep, and particularly REM sleep, there are specific patterns of connectivity that emerge. These patterns are thought to be important for integrating information and for allowing different brain areas to communicate effectively. If the brain is spending its sleep time in a state that lacks these characteristic REM patterns, it's possible that the functional connectivity between these regions could be altered. Imagine the communication lines in that bustling city being rerouted, or some lines going silent altogether. This could affect everything from our ability to switch between tasks, to our capacity for creative thought, to even how we process emotional information. It's like the internal postal service experiencing delays and misdeliveries, leading to a general sense of confusion and inefficiency. But the brain, bless its resilient, adaptable nature, is a remarkable thing. It's like a sturdy old oak tree, weathering storms and finding ways to grow even in challenging conditions. It has an incredible capacity to compensate, to reroute, to find new pathways when old ones are blocked. So, while the absence of dreaming might indeed trigger these cascades, it's also true that the brain would likely attempt to adapt. It would try to find new ways to maintain its essential functions, to keep the lights on, so to speak. However, the question that lingers, like the scent of rain on dry earth, is about the long-term consequences of such fundamental alterations. Can the brain adapt indefinitely to the absence of a process that has been so deeply woven into its evolutionary fabric? What are the subtle costs of this continuous adaptation, this constant rerouting? Are we trading one form of equilibrium for another, perhaps a less vibrant, less nuanced one? It's like a complex ecosystem. The absence of a keystone species, like dreaming, can have ripple effects, impacting plant life, insect populations, and predator-prey dynamics. Similarly, the absence of dreaming could trigger a cascade of changes throughout the brain's interconnected neural ecosystem, altering its delicate balance and the intricate relationships between its many parts. This exploration has been vast. What are the key takeaways from this journey into the dreamless mind? While our hypothetical has explored many possibilities, it's vital to acknowledge the limitations of current research and the exciting avenues for future scientific inquiry. You know, it's quite a delicate dance, isn't it, trying to understand something as ephemeral as dreams? When we talk about studying what happens if you never dream, we immediately bump into a rather significant hurdle: the sheer difficulty of making that happen, ethically and practically, in human beings. Imagine trying to create a perfectly silent room in a bustling city, or a completely still pond in a windy meadow. It's not just about turning off a light switch. To truly study the absence of dreaming, we'd need to find a way to prevent it entirely, and that, my friends, is a monumental task. We can't exactly ask someone to simply stop dreaming, can we? It's like asking a river to cease its flow. So, many of our current insights are, by necessity, like glimpses through a slightly fogged window. And that brings us to another point. Much of what we don't know about the impact of dreams, or rather, the disruption of dreaming, comes from studies that focus on REM sleep deprivation. REM, that rapid eye movement stage, is often called the dreaming stage because that's when our most vivid narrative-driven dreams tend to occur. But even these studies, while incredibly valuable, are often about partially or temporarily disrupting REM sleep. They might wake someone up just as they enter REM, or limit their REM time. It's like studying the effects of a light drizzle on a forest, rather than the complete absence of rain for years. We're observing the consequences of interference, not the profound stillness of non-existence. So, while we learn a great deal about the importance of REM sleep, the specific territory of absolute dreamlessness remains largely uncharted. Then there's the deeply personal, the wonderfully subjective nature of dreaming itself. How do you measure a dream? It's not like measuring the length of a bone or the speed of a chemical reaction. Dreams are woven from the fabric of our inner lives, a tapestry of emotions, memories, and fantastical landscapes. Their absence, too, would likely be felt internally. We rely on self-reporting, on waking someone and asking, "What did you dream?" But what if someone never dreams? How would they even know to report it? Or would they simply experience a different kind of inner quiet, a subtle shift in their mental weather? Capturing this subjective experience, or its profound lack with the precision science craves, is like trying to bottle starlight. It's a beautiful challenge. This leads us to a constellation of fascinating questions for future exploration. What are the precise neural correlates of dream generation? Can we pinpoint the specific patterns of brain activity that give rise to these nightly narratives? And if we could somehow achieve sustained dreamlessness, what would be the long-term effects on our emotional well-being, our creativity, our very sense of self? Could we develop interventions, perhaps to either encourage or, in some hypothetical future, perhaps even regulate dreaming? These are the whispers of possibility that beckon us forward. Science is like exploring a vast uncharted continent. We've mapped many territories related to sleep and dreams, but the specific landscape of complete dreamlessness remains largely unexplored. Our current maps are based on observing the effects of minor tremors, not the absence of a whole mountain range. As we begin to gather our thoughts, let's reflect on the profound philosophical implications of this inquiry. Beyond the empirical, the question of dreamless sleep invites deep philosophical contemplation about the nature of consciousness, reality, and what it means to be human. And so, we find ourselves pondering, don't we, the quiet hum of subjective experience. If our dreams, these ephemeral whispers of the night, were to vanish entirely, would they leave a void? Or is their value inherent, like the scent of rain on dry earth, appreciated not for its utility, but for its sheer, fleeting beauty. We often seek purpose, a function for every flicker of our being. But perhaps, just perhaps, the simple act of experiencing is purpose enough. These internal landscapes, these vivid, sometimes nonsensical, journeys we take in slumber, they feel real in their own way, don't they? They paint our inner world with colors that waking life sometimes struggles to replicate. And then there's the tantalizing whisper of the unconscious mind. Philosophers, like Jung, spoke of dreams as a bridge, a secret language connecting us to deeper, more ancient currents of existence. If we cease to dream, are we severing that connection? Are we silencing a part of ourselves that speaks in symbols and archetypes, offering glimpses into the vast, uncharted territories of our own psyche? It's like closing a door to a hidden garden, a place where the self, unburdened by the day's demands, can roam and explore its own intricate design. What wisdom might be lost in that silence? Consider, for a moment, the very fabric of a lived life. If our days are woven with the practical threads of waking reality, are our nights filled with the vibrant, often surreal patterns of dreams? What give that tapestry its true depth and meaning? Would a life devoid of this rich inner world, this nocturnal theater of the mind, feel somehow thinner, less fully realized? It's like tasting a meal that's perfectly balanced, yet somehow missing a certain spice, a certain unexpected note that elevates it from sustenance to something truly memorable, something that resonates long after the last bite. And this brings us to our very definition of normal consciousness. Are we perhaps too tethered to the sharp, clear light of our waking hours? Is our understanding of awareness too narrowly focused on the tangible, the logical, the easily quantifiable? Dreams, in their fluid, associative, and often illogical way, represent a fundamentally different mode of being, a different way of processing and as perceiving reality. To lose them might be to lose a vital facet of what it means to be a conscious, feeling, and experiencing creature. Our lives are like a tapestry woven with threads of waking experience and dream experiences. The waking threads are practical and form the structure. The dream threads add color, texture, and symbolic depth. A life without dreams would be a tapestry with functional structure, but lacking the vibrant, expressive artistry that makes it truly captivating. This has been an extensive exploration. Let's gently begin to draw our journey to a close. We have traversed the intricate landscape of the sleeping brain and the hypothetical absence of dreams. Let us now weave together the threads of our exploration, synthesizing the potential impacts of a slumber devoid of those ephemeral nightly narratives. Imagine, if you will, the brain as a vast library, its shelves lined with the accumulated knowledge and experiences of our waking hours. During sleep, this library doesn't just close its doors. Instead, it becomes a hive of quiet industry. Memory consolidation, that crucial process of sifting, sorting, and filing away the day's events, is deeply intertwined with sleep, and specifically, with the dynamic dance of REM sleep, where dreams often unfurl. Without the unique electrical patterns and neural replaying that characterize dreaming, the efficiency of this consolidation might be significantly dulled. Think of it like trying to organize a massive archive by simply stacking boxes haphazardly. The information might still be there, but finding it, connecting it, and truly integrating it into the existing collection becomes a far more arduous, perhaps even impossible task. Our ability to learn new skills, to solidify motor memories like playing a musical instrument or mastering a new language, could suffer. It's as if the delicate brushstrokes of new knowledge, meant to be blended and smoothed during the night, are left stark and separate, less integrated into the grand tapestry of our understanding. Then there's the emotional landscape, the delicate weather system of our inner lives. Dreams often serve as a kind of emotional catharsis, a safe space to process anxieties, fears, and even joys that might be too potent for our waking consciousness to fully contain. They can act as a pressure valve, releasing the build-up of daily emotional stress. In a dreamless sleep, this vital release mechanism might be absent. We could find ourselves waking with a heavier emotional burden, our resilience tested. Imagine a garden where the dew doesn't fall, where the gentle evening mist that softens the sharp edges of the day's heat never arrives. The soil might become parched, the blossoms less vibrant. This lack of emotional processing could manifest as increased irritability, a diminished capacity to regulate our moods, and perhaps a greater susceptibility to anxiety and stress. Our inner equilibrium, so carefully maintained, might begin to wobble without the nightly recalibration that dreams, in their often bizarre and symbolic way, provide. Creativity and problem solving, those sparks of insight that illuminate our path forward, are also deeply connected to the dreaming state. Dreams are notorious for their unexpected juxtapositions, their illogical leaps, and their ability to combine disparate elements in novel ways. This is where the brain can play, unbound by the strictures of waking logic. It's in this free, associative space that new ideas are often born, where solutions to stubborn problems can emerge from the subconscious ether. Without this nightly playground, our capacity for divergent thinking, the ability to explore multiple possibilities and generate novel solutions, could be significantly curtailed. It's like trying to paint a masterpiece with only a limited palette of colors, or attempting to build a complex structure with only a few basic tools. The potential for true innovation, for those unexpected, moments, might be diminished, leaving our creative well a little shallower. And finally, let's consider the broader tapestry of our well-being, the very fabric of our perception and our sense of self. Sleep, in its entirety, is restorative. But dreams, with their unique neural signatures, might contribute to this restoration in ways we're only beginning to understand. A dreamless sleep could subtly alter our perception of reality, perhaps dulling the richness of our sensory experiences, making the world appear a little flatter, a little less vibrant. It might even impact our sense of self, our internal narrative, the story we tell ourselves about who we are. If our dreams are a reflection of our inner world, a mirror to our subconscious, then their absence might leave a void, a subtle but profound disconnect from a part of ourselves. Think of the brain as a complex city. Waking life is the bustling daytime activity. Sleep is the night shift, where essential maintenance, resource management, and planning occur. Dreams are like the unique nocturnal events, art installations, quiet contemplation spaces, or even simulated drills that contribute to the city's overall dynamism and resilience. A dreamless sleep would be a city that only ever experiences the functional, quiet night shift, missing its vibrant, if sometimes strange, nocturnal life. As we prepare to conclude, let's embrace the wonder of our sleeping minds, and the profound, if often mysterious, role that dreams play in shaping our waking reality. We have journeyed through the hypothetical void of dreamless sleep. Now, let us return to the profound reality of why dreams, in their enigmatic way, are so vital. Even as we've explored the what-ifs of a dreamless existence, the scientific consensus whispers to us about the indispensable nature of these nocturnal narratives. It's like our brains have a built-in need for this surreal, often illogical, unfolding. During REM sleep, that vibrant stage where our eyes dart beneath closed lids like tiny, restless birds, our brains are anything but dormant. They're buzzing, replaying, reorganizing. Scientists believe this dreaming state, this nightly theater, is crucial for consolidating memories, for processing the day's deluge of information, and for perhaps even pruning away the unnecessary neural connections. It's a biological necessity, a quiet, internal housekeeping that keeps our cognitive machinery humming smoothly, even if we don't always understand the blueprints. But beyond the purely functional, there's an undeniable artistry to our dreams. They are the unconscious mind's most eloquent, most uninhibited expression. Think of them as wild gardens, where logic takes a holiday and the soul is free to paint with colors we rarely dare to use in the daylight. They can be symphonies of the bizarre, abstract sculptures of emotion, or whispered poems of longing. This is where the deepest, often hidden, aspects of our psyche can surface, not in neat sentences, but in vivid imagery, in the palpable feeling of flying or falling, in the uncanny familiarity of a forgotten face. It's a celebration of the irrational, a testament to the boundless creativity that lies dormant within us, waiting for the cloak of night to reveal itself. And in this wild garden, we find mirrors. Dreams are intensely personal, a unique language spoken only to ourselves. The symbols that flicker across our dreamscapes, the recurring motifs, the emotional resonance of a particular encounter, these are all clues, breadcrumbs leading us back to ourselves. They can illuminate our deepest desires, the ones we might not even acknowledge consciously. They can bring our buried fears to the surface, not to torment us, but perhaps to be seen and understood. They offer a gentle, albeit sometimes perplexing, way to navigate the unresolved knots in our emotional lives, a private therapy session conducted in the quiet hours. Ultimately, even if we could pinpoint every single biological function of dreaming, there's still something more, isn't there? There's the as intrinsic value of the dream experience itself. It's not just about what dreams do for us, but what they are to us. They add a layer of wonder, a depth of complexity, and a touch of the truly magical to our existence. To imagine a life without dreams would be to imagine a world muted, a sky stripped of its stars. Our sleeping minds are like vast, star-filled skies. Waking life is the sunlit day, functional and clear. Dreams are the constellations, the nebulae, the ethereal glow of the moon, not always logically structured, but imbuing the night with mystery, beauty, and a sense of the infinite. To lose dreams would be to lose the stars from our internal firmament. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive. Let's now transition to our closing thoughts. We have journeyed together through the quiet corridors of sleep, exploring the hypothetical landscape of a brain that never dreams. We've touched upon memory, emotion, creativity, consciousness, and the very fabric of our being. We've seen how the absence of dreams might subtly alter our cognitive functions, our emotional landscape, and even our perception of reality, painting a picture of a mind potentially less vibrant, less connected, and less nuanced, like a garden without its nocturnal bloom. This exploration serves not just as a scientific inquiry, but as a gentle reminder of the profound mysteries that unfold within us each night. Dreams, whether symbolic messages, memory consolidations, or simply the brain's way of tidying up, are a testament to the intricate, often poetic, nature of consciousness. They remind us that our internal world is as vast and complex as the cosmos we observe, a place of constant, subtle creation, a silent symphony playing out in the theater of the mind. To even contemplate their absence is to appreciate their presence, their quiet contribution to the richness of our lived experience. Like appreciating the silence between notes that makes the music truly sing. I am deeply curious about your thoughts on this journey. What resonated most with you? What new questions have arisen? Like tiny stars appearing in the twilight sky. Please share your reflections in the comments below. Your insights continue to shape our collective understanding and enrich our community, a shared tapestry woven with shared wonder. And if this gentle exploration has brought you peace or sparked your curiosity, consider sharing it with someone who might find solace or wonder in it, like sharing a warm ember on a cool evening. As we drift towards the quiet embrace of sleep, carry with you the wonder of your own dreaming mind. Allow the gentle rhythm of your breath to guide you into a state of deep, restorative rest. May your sleep be peaceful, your subconscious a gentle sea, and your dreams, if they come, be a soft whisper from the deeper self, a lullaby sung by the universe itself. Sleep well, dear friends, until our next quiet exploration.